All right, we should be live if we want to get started.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Hi, I'm Susan Gorin. I'm the first district supervisor, and I am so sad that you are on the Zoom call with us because that means that you suffered some damages, both the loss of your house and perhaps emotional damage through the glass fire. And as you know, I've lost my house 3 years ago, so I know exactly the journey that you are on. And some of you have just been allowed to go back into your property. Congratulations. And I would encourage all of you to spend a little time on your property, listening, learning, reconnecting, being amazed at what might have survived from the fires, and planning what the future will look like for the recovery of your lot and your neighbor's lot. Your neighbors will be your best friends through this process, but I'm hopeful that my experienced team and the great experienced team at the county can help you through the journey, at least for the very beginning. If you're like me and many fire survivors, you're still in shock and grief and dreading the process. And I would say, the house that I lost had pink tile. I'm thrilled that that pink tile is gone. And so now I get to choose a new color of tile for my bathrooms. So find how you can move forward, what will help you cyclically to move forward. I hope you have a notebook. You can jot down some details, but remember that this is just the first of the virtual conversations that we will have. We will help you every step of the way. Our great experts tonight will give you a primer of what will happen in the next couple of weeks, but we will offer Zooms for those of you who have questions about insurance, those of you who have more detailed questions about debris cleanup or vegetation management, for those of you who will have some questions on rebuilding, whether you're rebuilding in the city of Santa Rosa as I was, or rebuilding in the county. We worked with our fire survivors for about a year and a half after the 2017 fires, and I wish I could be there with you to give you a hug and a warm handshake and let you know that there are so many caring people around you to help you with the journey. So please let us know, drop us a line. Was this helpful? Was it not? I hope to maybe have some grief crisis counselors with us at some point along the way. And the advice that I would give you tonight is breathe and hug your family close. Get reconnected to your family and your neighbors. Let people help you because they want to help you, and forgive yourself for the things that you may have forgotten, that those frantic hour or two before the fire. And I'm not going to say it's just stuff, because that stuff is very, very meaningful. But you need to forgive yourself. The frantic hours before evacuation could and may consume you, and please don't let that happen. But if you're like me, you wake up in the middle of the night still, keep a pad of paper handy or an iPad handy, jot down your notes, and then tuck yourself back in and try to go to sleep. So we'll have more lessons along the way, but I'm so thrilled to have the folks here with us, and I'm frantically trying to find the journey and the agenda for this evening. So we're going to hear from the experts for a while. They're going to give you a few 5 minutes or so conversation. And then we're going to leave the air open so that you can ask some questions. We have 3 amazing panelists who have navigated through many fires. Lois Hopkins, our recovery analyst, she will be the be-all and information-all for debris cleanup, Sonoma County Office of Recovery and Resilience, Christine Sasco, Director of Environmental Health, really working on hazardous waste cleanup, John Kessel, Recovery and Resiliency Coordinator for the Sonoma County Office of Recovery and Resiliency. So without further ado, I'd like to turn the panel over to Lois Hopkins.
Thank you, Supervisor Gorin, and welcome everyone. I think I speak for all of us when I say our hearts go out to you and on this long journey that you are about to embark. And we are here to answer any questions, even if it's a question that isn't our area, we will make sure that we get answers to you and help you along the way. I'm going to speak tonight about debris removal. Christine's debris removal is 2 phases. There's a phase 1 and a phase 2. Christine Sasco is going to handle the phase 2. The phase 1 is the removal of household hazardous waste. So it is conducted by the state and it's mandatory for all properties. It's the removal of not only toxins, but explosives, potentially explosive materials. And so it's important when you go back to your lot that you be very careful as you walk through the debris. We have heard from Cal OES. They are going to be out on Wednesday of next week at the county to look at staging areas of where they're going to set up for this phase 1 debris removal. And they anticipate being back in the county the following week to actually have boots on the ground and begin the household hazardous waste sweeps. If your property has any accessibility issues, or if there are areas where you know that there are toxin, Ariel is going to provide the contact information that is done through the hazardous materials unit for the county. And they will be taking this information if you have locked gates and you have combinations that you want to provide to them. They will be accompanying the state's contractor that's going to actually be doing the sweeps. So you should contact that hazardous materials unit and notify them. The other area, Christine's going to talk about the phase 2, the right of entry form that's going to be required for the government phase 2 program. There's a section in that form about insurance collection. I'm handling the insurance collection program for the 2017 fires. So if you have any questions about your insurance policy and the debris removal proceeds out of the policy, please contact me and ask me any questions. So that will wrap it up for phase 1, and I'll turn it over, or Supervisor Gorin, do you want to introduce Christine?
I do, thank you. But of course, Ariel gave me instructions of what I might suggest to you, and of course, I forgot them. So let's take care of some housekeeping. First of all, please, you may be on the Zoom and we do not have access to your email. We want to make sure that we add you to our notification list. So please send us your contact information at susan.gorin@sonoma-county.org. And also, please know that on your Zoom screen, hopefully you are experienced, there is a raise hand function. Often it's in the upper right. If you're on an iPad, it's a virtual raise your hand so that we know that we can call on you for questions as we move forward. Our next panelist is Christine Sosko, Director of Environmental Health. Christine, I'm so glad that you're with us tonight.
Hi, everybody. Just as everybody else has said, I am sorry we're here under these circumstances. I wish they were better circumstances, and we're really sorry for your loss. And we're here to help you and to make this process as simple as possible and assist you through, every step of the way that we can. Lois spoke about the phase 1 program, which is the household hazardous waste collection. And once that program is done, then you have a choice with the phase 2 program. You could either enter into what's considered a private program, or you could enter into a public program. The private program means you would be hiring your own contractor and would be working through the same process as the public program, but through your own contractor. And then the other option is, of course, the public program. The public program starts, the very first step is a right of entry form. And it's a form that basically gives the authority to the state and their contractor to come onto your property and to start the debris removal process. When they start the process, they'll go through a number of kind of things right up front. They'll make sure there's no trees that could possibly fall onto your ash footprint, and they'll remove those. And then they will go through the ash and make sure there are no remaining household hazardous waste materials. Once they've completed that, then they will start removing all the material from your property. And there's a process that they go through. It's a burrito wrapping process to make sure that that ash is not distributed and it's wetted and not dispersed into the environment. And then after that process is done, then they come back and they do a soil sampling. And what they're looking to do is remove all the ash from your property and return your footprint where your home was. They want to return that area back to the same level of soil quality, basically, the same standards. They want to return it to those same standards before it's released back to you. So this ensures that there are no contaminants still remaining on your property or anything that could be of concern. Environmental Health is the group that is going to be running what we call the Right of Entry Center. And this year with COVID, we're challenged with how do we go about doing it. So we're looking at doing this in a number of ways. The first one is we're going to try to provide a very detailed website and information. And so those of you that want to work through it on your own can do that process. Those of you that have questions, we have a hotline that's always available, and that's 565-6700. And then we also have a hotline email, which is the debris removal at Sonoma-county.org. So those two sites will always be available for you. We're checking those throughout the day, and we'll get back to you to answer any questions you have. The other option we're looking at is to set up online appointments. So if you have questions and you want someone to walk you through the process, we can do one-on-one Zoom meetings, and we could do screen share and walk you through all the different documents and get you signed up for the program that way. And then we're also looking at setting up the actual in-person right of entry center, which would be a appointment only system where you would schedule an appointment, you would come in, you would go through a wellness exam, and then you would meet with someone one-on-one, and they would walk you through the process, make sure you have everything. Basically, what I just want to express to you is we're here for you, and we can help you through this. It seems a little overwhelming in the beginning. Everybody's talking about, debris removal and what is it and what is removed. And it's just a lot of information. So please contact us, talk with us, and we're here to help. I guess one of the questions that I know has been floating around a little bit has been about foundations and whether foundations are going to be removed. And we did hear from Cal OES that they are going to be removing the foundations as part of the debris removal program. And then I know some of you might have concerns having heard from 2017 about a little over excavation that had gone on. Cal OES has assured us that they have safeguards in place that that will not be happening this year. And then also a lot of awareness about retaining walls and not having debris flow and keeping everything secure on your site. So I'm excited about the program this year. I think it sounds like a really good program, and we're here to help you get started in that. So thank you. You're on mute.
You'd think I'd be experienced at that by now. I think we're hearing your kitty in the background, potentially our furry coworkers. I am so excited to announce, hot off the presses, that that FEMA has declared this a disaster area, and it does trigger additional assistance for you and for the county. We don't yet have the details, but the good news is we've heard from so many of you as we attended the local assistance center. Will FEMA declare us? When will they do that? And I could make a flippant comment about our administration, but yes, they came through, so I won't. We're very excited about the additional assistance. So we will be sending out some more information to you about registering for the FEMA assistance. And please note that the assistance that they deliver will not be a duplicate of the assistance that your insurance company may trigger. And so they will carefully weed that out. But that's good news. This is great news, as a matter of fact. So let's move on to, and before we move on, I did want to say that, yes, I did sign the right of entry on my property. I did choose the public option, and with 5,600 homes to clean up, they really worked in priority from Coffee Park down to the Sonoma Valley. So I was one of the last to get cleaned up, but I was satisfied with how they cleaned it up with no over excavation. And I was allowed on the site while they were cleaning up. So it was pretty fascinating to see how they went about doing it. But I know I've talked with a number of you and a number of debris contractors that are already queued up waiting for the household hazardous waste to be completed so that they can get on the job and start cleaning up the debris privately. So both of those options may be options that you want to explore, and choose the right option that's best for you. So, John, we all care about our watersheds, and I've talked with many, many people about their concern. We have probably 4 different tribs and watersheds in this area, and they want to make sure that, especially Mark West Creek, that our watersheds are going to recover and be healthy. And you've been so instrumental in working with our nonprofit partners to begin and complete the restoration process. So tell us about everything that you do.
Thank you, Chairwoman Gorin. I really appreciate you having me on this. And I want to say to everybody, just like has been said already, how sorry I am. And, you will get through this process, and we will be here for you and with you. I'm really looking forward to visiting more with the different individuals and finding out more about their unique needs and properties, because I think everybody's property is unique. So we have stood up a watershed task force, and that watershed task force is comprised of over 15 agencies. So we have county agencies that you're probably familiar with, Sonoma Water, groups like Permit Sonoma are members. And then we have Ag and Open Space, we have Sonoma RCD, But we also have some state agencies, California Fish and Wildlife. We've got a variety of other groups that participate, so 15 or 16 in total. And we meet multiple times every week. We stood up actually for the LNU fires, the Walbridge and Myers, and then we've expanded to include the glass fire. So we're a little bit ahead in some regards because of that, but then it's also a challenge, I think, when we've got the different events so close together. So what this Watershed Task Force does is they look at two major areas. The first area is the hazards, and really that's rainfall, right? And what that may do to the burn soils. And then the second area is mitigation for that. So that's BMPs, best management practices, which include wattles. We always talk about wattles, but there's many different kinds of those best management practices. And on the hazard side, really our first and primary focus is to stand up what they call a WERT team, a Watershed Emergency Response Team. And that team is actually something we request through CAL FIRE and Cal OES. And they put together a team of experts who come out and do field verifications of the post-fire conditions. And then they also do satellite imagery that does it gives us a lot of information on the burn severity, and they kind of correlate that with what they saw in the field. And then they do analysis based on slopes and soil types and a lot of that kind of background data, and they plug that into a USGS model, and it gives us a hazard, post-fire hazard probability output that we put into a report. And so we'll start to get some of that preliminary data back pretty soon. And we already have that data back for the Walbridge. So it doesn't take that long to start to get that information, which is really good, lets us get started. And then the report's taking a little bit longer because with over 4 million acres of fires statewide, it's the same team that would normally do 2 or 3 fires. They're doing, 15 different reports at the same time. So, but we'll have that, we'll make that available to you. And we really encourage you to look at that and to really understand what it means and to think about that, particularly as we go into winter, and just be aware of those different potential hazards. And so that's kind of the main focus of that hazard side. But then we also do a lot of analysis on our own. And that's because we've been working with this now for several years. One of the tools that we've developed through our Ag and Open Space group is this analysis of vegetation types and how easily or rapidly they regenerate after a fire. And some don't like to regenerate at all, and others will spring back. In the middle of the winter, you'll see all sorts of green coming up, and it'll really warm your heart when you see that. And so we can take that burn severity map and we can overlay our vegetation that's categorized to different types of vegetation and be really smart about which areas we see at a high burn intensity and also have a low regenerative type of vegetation present. And that'll really help us target some of the work that we're going to do. We also look at proximity to creeks, and we have a group that looks specifically at water quality, and that's led by Sonoma Water, but there's many different groups that are participating in that particular effort. And they're very concerned with both water quality for drinking water and also water quality for salmonids, fish, and other wildlife. And so we're certainly really aware of what the impacts of the fire can do. And we're also wanting to make sure that we can put some mitigation in place that will help address that. So that's kind of the hazard side in a nutshell. I know this is a lot of information, but I wanted to give you a high level overview so you know that we're looking at a lot of that information and it's being developed right now. And then on the mitigation side, there's a lot of different things that we can do with you. But I think really the place I like to start is by saying that every property is unique. And that's because every part of the fire is unique. Some places are hot burns, some places are very cool burns, some places are very steep slopes, some places are near water, some places are open. And so really appreciating that every property is unique. And so we try to take that approach that a lot of the technical assistance you might receive is not going to be generic. It's really going to need to have someone come out and take a look at your property and see your circumstances. And so we put that in place, and I'll get into that in just a minute. But I wanted to start with that kind of idea that every property may be different. So if you see one property doing something, it may be exactly right for their property, but a next property over may be a little bit different. And on some properties, you might be surprised to learn that kind of the observe and let nature kind of get back to nature is really the best practice. And you'll hear that from USDA, from Rich Kessel, who's one of the leading experts in post-fire recovery here in California. He's been working on that for over 40 years. And that kind of observing that and just making sure everything's in good shape and maybe a little bit of tweaking here and there, that can really be effective in some circumstances. And you'll see grass growing up and sprouting, and you'll see revegetation with the plant lives and the trees. And a good example of areas that may be like this is if you've had the burn come through, but you can still see leaves on the trees. And you'll see that sometimes they may even be a little bit burned, but they're still there. That's really going to protect that property from the rainfall. And there's a really good chance that it's going to regenerate. And then we have some properties that I might call high priority properties. And what I mean by that is simply from a water quality perspective, they would be the kind of the first properties we might look at and say, we really need to go in and really assess those and probably put in wattles or something. So we'll look to figure out how to line the creek. And we always start first at the pad site. We try to put wattles around the pad site to contain that burned area right where it burned really hot, where the house was. That's where a lot of the toxins are. And so that's always a first place that we look for. And then we also want to look at the creeks. We want to look at the stream beds and see if there's debris down there or near there at the top of the bank and on the slopes, and make sure those are stabilized. And so that's an area that we can all work together. Sometimes that's going to be us coming in with our wattle crew. Sometimes that's going to be the debris phase 2 team that's going in, and they're putting that infrastructure in to hold that lot steady. Sometimes if it's the timing's right, it could be a private property that's wanting to do the self cleanup, and they can get that stabilized better and faster than anybody else. So there's just always a variety of ways that can be handled. Let me also say that these community-based partners are really knowledgeable, and I've provided Ariel a list, and I'm hoping she can share her screen. But we have, oh, wonderful. Thank you so much, Ariel. So I think everyone knows who Sonoma Ecology Center is, but if you don't, there are really some local experts. That's going to be a first call. If I was you, I might give them a call. We also have some other groups that are very knowledgeable, very well respected, very well known. Russian River Keeper, and also Community Soil Foundation. All three have worked both in the Kincaid fire and the Tubbs Nuns fires previously, and they're also working, extensively with longer term post-fire recovery. So they really know what they're doing. They can answer the questions. There's phone numbers that are on this, and this is information that I know Ariel will be sending out to you. So I think you don't have to write all these down, but these are the phone numbers. And then there's also some key emails that might be helpful to you. I'd also like to say that if you have land and forest management questions, that Sonoma RCD, Resource Conservation District, Sonoma RCD, they are really good about advising you on trees and forest and land management. Let's say that you've got roadways that are leading into property, and there's challenges with how you have the culvert crossings, maybe those need some repair. They can really help you with that. So they're a good resource as well, excuse me, for some of those larger projects on your land. And so I just want to wrap up by saying that we're here with you. We're going to have some resources for you, but always, always, always start with that technical assistance before you do anything. You'll probably save a little bit of time and a lot of money by doing it right the first time and getting those experts who really know what they're doing to look at your property and advise you what really needs to happen.
Thanks, John. Always great advice. I visited with a couple of families who were sifting their ashes already, and really appreciating that there were things that survived. Bits of salt and pepper shakers from their salt and pepper collection meant a lot to them. And the whole family was there, so family and friends. But please make sure you are safely sifting through your ashes, that you are wearing, they sell at Home Depot, or they're selling suits, hazmat suits, booties, gloves, definitely a mask, hats. You do not want to get the ash on yourself. Once I finished sifting in my ashes, I just threw everything away into the landfill because I didn't even want to wash it. And please be careful as you walk through your ashes, because there are some toxic things that will remain even after the cleanups. And that electrical wiring just sort of sinks into the ashes, waiting to trip you. You do not want to do a face plant in the ashes. Trust me that. So please be careful and appreciate the awesome destructiveness of fire. It does a pretty good job when it's burning houses. There's a lot of things that just keep that fire burning. So be safe doing it. Also, I would recommend that you might wait for the winter to see what does recover in your vegetation. You'll be amazed that sometimes the tree rings have sprouts coming up. Toyon has resprouted on my lot, a lot of bulbs, flowers, seeds, and a lot of grasses, sadly. So you'll have to take care of the grasses next spring. But a lot of the trees, I'm so grateful to see the mountain behind me recover from 3 years ago until this fire. And now we're watching fire recovery every day out my front window. So it will recover. And I am so grateful that we will have folks from parks on one of our virtual calls to talk about the status of the parks. This one is going to take a while to open up again, but the others have done pretty well and will be opening shortly. So I want to, Ariel, could you share on your screen your email address so that they can contact you if they don't contact me, to make sure that you that they are on our list and to be notified of the next virtual conversation. And I'd like to remind you, there is a raise hand function on your Zoom screen. And also, if you're on a phone, I think you can press *9. You don't have to have a Zoom function in order to do that. I think it's just, you have to press *9. Ariel is waiting for your questions and she'll call on you. Thank you, Ariel, for being such a great moderator.
Okay, I am gonna start with Keith Orleski because he has had his hand raised almost the whole time. So Keith, I'm going to allow you to talk, and you should see a prompt asking you to unmute yourself. We can't hear you, Keith. I see that you are not muted, but we can't hear you. So I'm gonna move on, Keith, but I'm lowering your hand, but if you figure out your sound issue, please raise your hand again. Okay, I'm going to go to,
Or Ariel, he could type to you with his question and then you could just announce it maybe.
sure, we don't have chat turned on actually, so he can't type, unfortunately. So I'm gonna move on. So Keith, feel free to email me with your question and we'll make sure it gets answered, or maybe someone else will ask the same question. I'm going to unmute Penny Serrata. So Penny, you should see something asking you to unmute.
Hi, yeah, thanks so much. I was wondering about the word maps and how we'll be able to access those. Where will they be posted?
Hi, Penny. Thank you. This is John. Those will be posted on our Recover web pages by the event. So it'll be the Glassfire Recover page. And we don't have those yet because those will come out from the state. But what we'll have for you once it gets posted, once we receive it, is we'll have a PDF of the actual full report. So you can download that and read it electronically or print it if you need to. But we'll also have an interactive map where you can plug in your address, and then that will take you to your property, and you can see that in context of some of the data that the work report provides. And that'll be a really good way for you to start, where am I and how will that be?
Great, thank you.
And Penny, thanks so much for being with us tonight. My heart goes out to you and all of our friends at Monan's Rill, and for your incredible work on the Watershed and of course a Fire Safe Council. You will recover, absolutely.
Thank you, Susan.
Okay, next let's go to Jane. Jane, you should see a prompt on your screen.
Yes, I do. Do you hear me?
We do.
Oh, wonderful. Our property is up on St. Helena Road. We have 100 acres. And so the damage is not only to the 2 homes that came down on our property, just totaled, but also the trees and the forests, incredible damage, so many trees down, so much destruction and burning. And it's kind of like World War II up there. I mean, it's insane. And our greatest concern is how do we go about managing the forest properly, removing the debris in the forest, not, I have a complete understanding of the debris removal for the home, but, what options do we have to, I don't know, get some loggers in there to pull the logs out, because it's a real mess.
Jane, thanks for the question. And we've had similar situations in Mark West previously, especially at Foothills Ranch, where they had hundreds of trees that were essentially killed by the fire. I think this time is different. We're taking vegetation management in a different direction. So I appreciate the question and we'll note it. And we will have folks on here talking about vegetation management and restoration. And John, any words to the wise here?
Yes, thank you, Supervisor. Jane, I would definitely reach out to Sonoma RCD and see if they can come out and look at your property and just get some early advice from a land and forest management perspective. That's exactly the kind of large scale property that they could really offer some advice on. Okay. And then I would also say, and we have this information on our Recover page already, so you can go to our web page and it's on that information that Ariel has. The link, if you don't know where that is already, socoemergency.org, and it's the Recover section. USDA has a lot of resources and a lot of technical advice that they can give you. And so what I would do is I'd also reach out to USDA. And again, that contact information is on our webpage. They're similar to Sonoma RCD. Sonoma RCD is going to be more forest management. And I think that USDA can talk to you maybe about the timber opportunities, reclamation opportunities. So two different sides of the same coin.
Okay, great. I have one other question. In regards to debris removal, I know we have two options, public and private. If we were to use the public option, are there limits as to what they will remove? For example, on my house that was burnt to the ground, there is a large patio and retaining walls that step down just a couple levels from the house. Associated fences in the garden that are half burnt. Do they remove all that stuff?
Hi, Jane, this is Christine.
Hi.
Hi, generally they will remove some of the structures that are real close to the home. So like that patio, they might go ahead and remove. If they do not remove all those pieces, what happens at the end is you can use your insurance funds to do those cleanups. And then it goes against the cleanup removal cost. So it gives you an option. You might have some additional debris removal that you need to do on your own. So like the fence, if the fence is far away and such, and then you can use that against the total. I'm going to actually let Lois. Lois is the one who has been handling all the insurance for the 2017, and I'm sure she can speak to that really well.
So the way that it will work is that if you incur private expenses in addition to what the state removes, you are first in line for payment.
Okay.
So the state will only take money that is left over after you've been paid for any additional debris removal required on your parcel.
Super.
But I've heard of many people from the 2017 fires wanting to retain the retaining walls and of course steps that were undamaged. So you may get some expert advice on the integrity of those remaining structures before you consider removing them. And in fact, some people specify during the cleanup process that they don't want them removed. Sometimes they're removed anyway, whether you wanted it removed or not, but you might get some advice and to figure out what you can salvage. If you're building an entirely new home, you may not want them there, but if you're building something close to the structure, then you will want that familiar environment.
Thank you.
Okay, next we're gonna go to Robert Butler. Robert, you should see a prompt come up.
Hello, thank you, Chair Gorin. I'm a county employee, part of the county family. So sorry to be part of this. We lost our home, and I really appreciate Ariel's efforts and everything you're doing, and I appreciate this event.
Thanks, Robert.
Question, Lois, you kind of touched on it. For the public debris removal, is there going to be a cap on the expense billed to the property owner, such as the maximum that the insurance will pay out if the cost covers exceed that?
Correct. The most that any property owner will be required to pay is the amount of money that they receive from their insurance company, less any private expenses that you incur.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And then also, Ariel's helping us coordinate this, but we kind of have a neighborhood group. There's several of us in a row on a block in one area. So hopefully we can form that and get some more support, but look forward to more of these meetings and discussions. Another question that came up from some of the neighbors and my family is we did initial search. We got the buckets and the shovels and went through, and there's so much ash, we can't find anything. So between phase 1 and phase 2, is there opportunity to maybe go through and maybe do a look through for anything that we could salvage?
There will be time between phase 1 and phase 2. It's important to remember that phase 1 is really a visual inspection, and they will take out large items that are hazardous or potentially dangerous. So they're not going to be removing any ash during that phase 1, generally speaking. So it's just large objects, but yes, we've heard from the state that probably the phase 2 will begin December 1st. That's a very general time frame, but and it's certainly subject to change. But so there could be a couple weeks between phase 1 and a public phase 2.
Okay, thank you for that.
Sure.
That was all my.
And Robert, please be patient with the pace of the cleanup. As I said, the 2017 fires happened in October and I was not cleaned up till the end of March. Now the scale was appreciably different then, but looking at the widespread geographical areas of the damage, it may take a while to get to where you lost your home, but keep checking in and we'll try to give you some understanding of the pace of the cleanup. You'll probably see how the cleanup commences for sure. And yes, there are sifters that you could purchase at Home Depot that might help you recover things. I dispensed with the sifter. I didn't think it was worth my time. It was a lot of ash, not much to recover, but people are finding, going through the slog methodical process of sifting if you're looking for something specific. And if you know pretty much where it was in the house, then focus your efforts there.
Right.
And if I could add one, there were signs placed on all of the properties that talked about the warning of going into the ash. It talked about if you disturb the ash footprint that you could jeopardize your eligibility for a public program. And I want everyone to know that disturbing the ash is defined as either enlarging or decreasing the ash footprint. You can enlarge the ash footprint. Apparently people put other debris onto the ash footprint, or if you are raking or scooping the ash into a pile within the footprint. So disturbing the ash does not include sifting and looking for small objects that may have survived the fire, but it is changing the size of the ash footprint.
Thanks for that. And I just want to mention the city and county both have been very supportive through this. So thank you very much, Chair Gorin, for all your leadership on this. A couple things I want to mention. Yes, FEMA designated this as an event and they update their website regularly. And another great resource for fire survivors is United Policyholders. They have a great website with a lot of tools. They have an inventory because I wake up at night thinking, oh, we have this and that, and they have a little checklist that you can go through. So I just want to mention that and share that. So that's all I had. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Robert. And that was a preview of coming attractions because we will have someone from the United Policyholders to talk about that. And we will have someone from the Insurance Commissioner's Office to help you navigate through. And you'll probably need multiple conversations with United Policyholders to give you all the ins and outs of working and understanding your insurance policy. But yes, that's exactly what I did when I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I said, oh yes, I remember we had this. And I recorded it on an electronic notepad. I had saved that, but please keep that handy because you may need that. Also, I would say keep every single receipt that you have right now. Your insurance company will want to see the receipts, and if you are entitled to reimbursements, FEMA will want to see the receipts, and you may, if you've already talked with your insurance company, if you were insured, you will know whether you need to fill out an inventory of contents or not. That would be great if you did not have to fill out an inventory. Took me 7 months, but that's what you can be doing. instead of grinding your teeth over the pace of the debris cleanup, figure out what you can be doing that's productive and helping you move forward to recovery. Next question.
Supervisor Gorin, I wanted to add in that the CPOD is actually still open through tomorrow.
Thank you.
And that's at the Sequoia School. And they do have kits there that have sifters and gloves and personal protective equipment. So if you do want to go look through your site, that's a great location to go to.
Thank you,
pick up
Christine,
the
for
kits.
that reminder.
Mhm.
And so Sequoia School, that is the elementary school on Calistoga Road. That is not the Maria Carrillo High School, where they may have received services at the local assistance center. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so Sequoia is Calistoga and DuPont, and it's just north of the St. Francis Shopping Center.
Okay, the next question is from Mark Newman. Mark, you should see a prompt now.
Yeah, I have a couple. After the the cleanup form in Sonoma County and City of Santa Rosa, is that going to be the same this year?
He was breaking up a little bit, Lois, but I think this person lives in the city of Santa Rosa. And so the cleanup forms are the same for the city and the county. And as before, is the county handling the debris cleanup for all of both the city and the county?
I can
Go
go
ahead,
ahead and
Christine.
start.
Go ahead.
The environmental health is doing both the public cleanup and the right of entry for both the city and the county. And then for the private cleanup, the city of Santa Rosa will be doing their own private cleanup program, and so will the county. But we are working together to make sure our forms and everything are really similar. Just have a little bit of different labeling and some little intricacies between the two agencies.
And I wanted to make sure that Mark got his question answered. Did I interpret it correctly?
I think he might have disappeared. I saw him completely disappear, but you know, he can email us if that wasn't his question.
Right, thank you.
Okay, next we have Debbie Epstein. Debbie, you should see a prompt in a moment.
Yep, you can hear me?
Hi, Debbie.
Hey, hi. So I have 3 questions related to debris removal. The first is our car insurance wants to come in and remove the car. Are we allowed to do that before all the rest of it?
Oh, I think we've stumped the experts here.
You know, this is definitely one of the questions that we are asking the state and working with them with. I think probably the best thing to do is if I can get your contact information, as soon as we get a really clear answer, we can get back to you, and maybe Supervisor Gorin's office could post something like that.
Oh, okay, because they were going to come in this weekend, so we should tell them to hold off then. And the second question was, we had a metal roof, which is now lying on top of all the ash. One private contractor we talked to said that they could remove the metal first so we could look through the ash. Could the public debris removal do that as well?
We could talk to them about doing that and see if they would be willing to work out something like that. You know, Lois spoke about the eligibility of the program, and definitely if you have that contractor come out and remove that metal roof, you could jeopardize your eligibility.
For the public program.
Right.
Okay. And then the last question was, we live right above Santa Rosa Creek, and there are tons of trees that have fallen in Santa Rosa Creek. Will somebody be responsible for getting those out, or what happens there?
So I'll take a crack at that one, if I may, Supervisor. I think that's another example where we need to probably look specifically at those trees and see what the status is. Some of the creeks do really well to have trees, depending on the condition and the location in them, and just leave them in place. Others, they really should be removed. It is the property owner's responsibility, but I think that's also an area that we all have an interest in. And so, again, it's a very unique situation. So when you contact one of these groups, Sonoma Ecology Center or somebody, make sure that you point that out to them and have them go look so they can give some specific advice as to what the proper treatment would be.
Because when you say property owners, there's property on the other side of the creek, and I know they don't have any insurance. So I wouldn't want to have to pay for removing trees that fell from their side.
Yes, and so we all try to work together and do something that's fair for all concerned and the responsible thing. So I would agree.
Actually, I have one more question on debris removal. Somebody had mentioned that the public debris removal would remove foundations. Now, our house was built on a hill, and we think the foundations are intact and it's going to prevent a lot of erosion. So we would not want them removed.
Let me just answer that. First of all, you should have an evaluation of your foundation. Sometimes your house burns so hot that it will damage your foundation. And if you decide to redesign your house, that may require a different foundation, you may want to have your foundation removed just to eliminate any overlap or any complications in your rebuild. But I'm going to let the experts answer that as well.
No, I think that's accurate. I think you definitely want to have the foundation looked at. It can, warp the rebar, and so it looks okay, but structurally, it should not be built back upon.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next we have Jean or Jean, not sure. You will see a prompt now.
Yes, it's Jean. Thank you. I wanted to ask about, our house was serviced by a well, and I wanted to find out how we get that checked, when we should do it. Do we have to arrange with some specific organization, or is it just a private matter?
In a future Zoom call, we will have Permit Sonoma on here to give you real specifics about well and septics. You do have to have them inspected before you can rebuild or even move a trailer back onto the property. And they probably are okay, but there's probably a list of folks. A well installer can probably do the inspection for you, but please make sure you mark the location of the well, and especially the septic area, because we've had experience where the debris trucks have fallen through and damaged the septic system. You don't want that to happen, but often they're intact and ready to enable you to rebuild. Any other advice, Lois, Christine?
No, I know on Sosko Emergency, there is a information there specific to well and septic systems and contact information for Permit Sonoma to be able to talk to them about it.
Okay. I do have one more question. We have also a couple of outbuildings that were steel or metal frames that are just the frames, and they've been warped and they need to come down. Will that be part of the public removal, or will we have to arrange for that separately?
Christine, you can speak to that.
Generally, the outbuildings are not included. And like Lois said earlier, it would be something that you would arrange to have done, but you do want to wait. If you're going to go with the public program, you would want to wait till they have completed the public program before you do that.
Okay.
And often your insurance policy will specify other structures or accessory structures for additional coverage. And check with your insurance company because they may cover the debris cleanup for those other structures.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for this seminar. It's been very helpful. Appreciate it.
Okay, next we have Jay Gamel. Jay, you should see a prompt.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. 2017, I was telling everybody in Sonoma Valley what to do and how to go about getting help. And I find myself on the other end of the stick now, and it's a real different situation. I'm a very lucky man. I lost my home, but I kept my valuables and my cat. So at this point, I am far more concerned with my environment. I love where I live up at Adobe Canyon Road. I live on a steep hill. One good rain, even though Sonoma Ecology Center has been great enough. They've already come out to my house and they've set the wattles around, and a great crew is up there, and I feel better about it. But one heavy rain, and there's going to be a lot of stuff going straight into my Winter Creek, which is below the house, and that Winter Creek's 100 feet on a very steep level into the headwaters of the Sonoma Creek. So I'm concerned with priority, I guess, and how do I go about getting my house put up a priority for this removal? I don't need to sift anything. I don't need to stuff, but I just don't want my house to be poisoning the creek. So what do I do to make sure it gets attended to fairly soon, or if I can? You've answered a couple other of my questions already. Thanks for this great seminar, but I'm a little concerned about how I go about the priority.
And for those of you who don't know, Jay Gamel is a former owner and reporter for the Kenwood Press. He covered the 2017 fires extensively. And as he said, he now finds himself on the other side. But he did increase his insurance company, or insurance coverage. So that is a success story for Jay. So I think everybody will want to know, especially in these fragile watersheds, can they get priority for household hazardous waste cleanup or debris cleanup? How will FEMA or the county or the debris cleanup contractors prioritize cleanup?
So what I can say is I just arranged for a tour of properties with Cal OES earlier this week for the LNU complex fire. And they specifically wanted to see properties that were at the highest risk for debris flow. So I haven't seen what has come out of that tour earlier this week, but I think that what they do based on that will certainly inform how they're going to go about glass and prioritizing that. But they are definitely looking at parcels that should be first in line to get the debris cleared away and the wattles placed. After the phase 2 debris cleanup, wattles will be placed around the ash footprint. So I know John at the Watershed Task Force, they're also working with Cal OES to see these properties that are at higher risk.
Am I still here?
Yes.
I just wanted to say Sonoma Ecology Center, I called them right away. I volunteer at Sugarloaf and I know people over there, and they got themselves over there. They helped me in 2017. Excuse me. They knew the property and they're there. I got my wattles down already. So they might be another source of help for you if
you're a very educated person and you're going to help people through this, Jay. Thank you.
It's the least I can do.
Next question, Ariel.
Yes, we have Pessy next. So Pessy, you're going to see a prompt come up on your screen.
Hi. Can you hear me?
We can.
Great. Actually, I'm Karen Freed, and our home and business, the Tree Farm Pottery on Sonoma Highway, burned to the ground. And I know this is about home, but will there be any support for business debris removal? We have a huge with the pottery and gallery and Christmas trees to remove. Everything burned.
Well, we all could toddle on over and get a Charlie Brown Christmas tree. My heart goes out. My heart goes out to you because everyone knows Valley of the Moon Pottery and knows your story and what caring, great people and creative people you are. So, neighbor, I'm so sorry for your loss. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about you. But what about business properties?
So currently, the phase 2 debris removal does not cover commercial or public properties. Those properties, I'm working with Permit Sonoma to get a list of the commercial properties involved in the fire. The county will need to ask Cal OES, who will make a decision on a case-by-case basis whether or not the commercial property will be cleared of debris. I think information is going to have to be put forth as far as what insurance coverage you have for the debris removal. So I'm not sure all of the factors that Cal OES uses in determining which commercial properties will be cleared, but I am working with Permit Sonoma to get a list of the commercial properties involved. So someone should be in touch with you regarding that. I don't know, Christine, if you have anything more to add on the phase 2 commercial.
No, I think you covered it really well. We do have the private process that they can go through, but there's the option to try to see if we can get you into the public process also.
And we'll try to get you some better information as we learn more. Make sure you outreach to our office and give us your contact information. Will household hazardous waste be part of the cleanup of even commercial properties, or they're not involved either?
No, my understanding is that every parcel will get the household hazardous waste suite. Christine,
Right.
correct me if I'm wrong, but everything goes through that. That's a health hazard and a safety hazard. So yes, you will get the household hazardous waste suite.
I have a question in that actually our land is not a commercial property. We had to get a special use permit. It's agricultural, rural, residential land. So will that make any difference, even because we had a special permit to have the business there and how they treat it?
Yeah, I can't answer that right now. I'm still trying to get the kind of the conditions from Cal OES of what would qualify. So
Okay. Thank you. Let's see.
I hear the notebook papers rustling in the background.
Yeah.
And please send us your questions. If you don't get the answers on the Recovers website, please send us your questions, and Ariel and I and our other team members will try to get the answers for you.
So I had another little question, and that somebody said that the outbuildings, because on our homeowners policy, we had outbuildings, but that usually FEMA doesn't deal with those. And so we would have to pay for that to be. So should we take the insurance settlement so we're sure there's money for us to use on the debris cleanup of things that are the outbuildings, or should you kind of just wait and see what happens?
So I'm not an expert on insurance settlement, but what I have heard through all of the fires that I have worked at the county is don't settle anything until you can speak with United policyholders and they can help you with the terms. Don't sign papers that the insurance company gives you. And don't, if they're willing to give you money up front that is not a settlement, termed a settlement, or that you have to sign any documents, that is a different thing. But I highly recommend that you contact United policyholders and let them help you through that that question.
Okay, that's
And you have such a unique property and unique losses. I definitely will refer you to United policyholders. But just for your information, I have not settled with my insurance company from 3 years ago, as I'm still moving through the rebuilding process. And the rebuilding process does trigger some additional coverage with the code upgrades and building upgrades. So I would echo that. Don't settle anything anytime soon.
okay. Okay, that sounds good. Thank you very much for your advice. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Ruth Taylor. Ruth, you should see a prompt come up.
Hi, Ruth.
Hello, everyone. Let's see. Hello, everyone.
Hello, beautiful photo you have.
Thank you for being here for us. We really need you. Couple of clarifications on the debris removal. I know we're waiting on FEMA. As I'm understanding this, FEMA is going to be primary. Is that correct? On as far as the cost and the charges for removing debris.
And Lois, could you clarify FEMA and Cal OES, how that process works?
FEMA has, we've just heard that the federal government has declared the disaster, which is a lot of funding information. Cal OES, my understanding is that Cal OES will be mission tasking this. I don't know whether or not they're going to need federal assistance. So it's unclear right now who will be managing the debris removal, whether it would be the federal government or the state government.
And these acronyms just sort of flow off of our lips, but it's the California Office of Emergency Services. We know them. We even know their first names, Cal OES and Bob Fenton of FEMA.
Very good. And then, so we basically should just wait before doing anything, right?
You can be exploring what your insurance policy will cover. You can be exploring and make a decision on whether or not you are going to rebuild. You can be interviewing builders. You can be talking with Permit Sonoma about the inspections that you need to rebuild. There are many, many things that you could be considering as you're waiting for the debris cleanup.
Oh, we are keeping ourselves busy looking for a rental dwelling. So,
and that's the first priority, find housing.
That's right. That's correct. So yes, and I've been listening into all that your advice as far as keeping ourselves busy, and I think we are doing that. So again, in our position, at least for my family and where we're staying, we are in the Skyhawk area. We're just going to leave everything as is. I mean, don't even touch it, because I really don't know where the hazardous materials are in right now. And so it's just really hard. So I think we're just going to wait, be on standby, keep ourselves busy. Last week, though, I wanted to share, we did get a phone call from our insurance company because one of our vehicles was parked in the garage and it was totally fried. So they're wanting to pick up the salvage. And my husband and I both said, there's nothing to pick up. I mean, it's all frame, it's all bent and damaged. And apparently when it was reported to the insurance company, they didn't say that it was a total fire loss. So the salvage company is wanting to come out, and I was like, there is nothing to pick up at this point. And I was very adamant in terms of walking in the property, moving stuff, shoveling things, shifting things around just to get to the vehicle. I just didn't feel comfortable people going in there and messing things up, so.
And I think that's a wise decision. Vehicles will be salvaged. They cannot remain on the property, but but it is important to navigate through all of that during the debris cleanup. And often I see that the debris companies will move the destroyed vehicles to the side while they finish cleaning up the property. And then the destroyed vehicles will be picked up for salvage. So it's important that they recycle the metal. Any other advice? Did I answer that correctly? Lois says yes.
Yes,
Well,
nothing else to add. And I would really caution having vehicles removed because that could qualify as disturbing the ash footprint depending on the trucks that come in to do that. So yes, I agree with Supervisor Gorin.
Yeah, unfortunately though, our vehicle was parked inside the garage. And so again, they will have to shift through all that metal and through all that dust and debris to even get to the vehicle. So it's comforting to know that the debris removal company will move those vehicles to the side and then salvage can be picked up. So thank
Exactly.
you. I
And
appreciate
this is not out of the ordinary. Often vehicles are trapped in garages or other outbuildings, and so they know how to maneuver around it and recover it as a salvage vehicle.
Okay, very good. That's all I have. Thank you again for being here for us.
Thank you, Ruth.
Okay, before we go to our next person in line, I did get an email from Keith Orleski, who I did see is still on the call. So I have his questions. So since he was so patient raising his hand for so long, I'm going to read his questions.
Go for it.
He has 3 questions. So the first is that he has a half-mile long driveway and there are half a dozen large trees across it now. How does phase 1 access happen? And I know this was talked about briefly, but can someone just reiterate that?
So he should contact the hazmat information that I had put up, and they will work with him to get accessibility to his property to do the phase 1 debris removal. It may be that there are going to need to be the trees removed, but his property will be noted as such, and he may be, one of the last to go through the phase 1, depending on how long it may take to get the trees removed. So.
And I know one of our fire victims, actually a number of our fire victims from 2017 had to have private bridges replaced in order for the debris cleanup to access the property. And it was quite a journey. If you do need to replace a bridge, please contact us because we have great fire survivors with incredible experience and knowledge, and we can help you, help to connect you. And in the 2017 fires, there were 70 private bridges that were destroyed in the fires. And so all of them had to be replaced with a temporary bridge in order to do the cleanup. So fear not, we can help you.
So his second question, I think it was more or less answered with Debbie Epstein's question, but it is given the proportional expense of foundations in reconstruction, is it possible to have them retained? How much time do we have to assess integrity of foundations between phase 1 and phase 2?
As I said earlier, the dates that we have been hearing for a beginning of phase 2 is around December 1st. So there should be plenty of time to get foundations tested between now and then.
And do we have resources as to who might be, what kind of companies might test the foundations for its integrity?
So the county doesn't make recommendations for any of the contractors. Again, if you go to Sosko Emergency, under the debris removal, you will see North Coast Builders Exchange is a very good organization. They have contractors that deal with fire debris removal, fire rebuild, testing of foundations. So I highly recommend that. There's a couple other national or California Association of Engineers is another organization that people could contact. So.
And the Engineering Contractors Association is another source for private debris cleanup contractors.
Mm-hmm.
And Keith's third question is, do we need to ask to have the assessment done of our property relative to watershed protection, installation of wattles, etc.? So I think that kind of goes to John. Do they need to ask to have that assessment done, or is it just kind of done as a whole?
Thank you for that question. I think it's important that you do ask for that. All of our community partners will be reaching out. We provide them a list of property owners, but it's often hard for them to get in touch with you. Obviously, if you're living somewhere else, and they may not be able to reach you easily. So the best thing to do is to call those numbers that Ariel put up and that she's going to get emailed out and make available. They're also going to be on our website. Just call those numbers and they'll coordinate with each other to make sure they don't send 3 different crews from 3 different groups out. They'll just send one crew out and they'll take care of you.
And I was shaking my head no. I thought when you were talking about assessments that you were asking if you needed to seek a property assessment, reassessment, since your property was destroyed. And no, now that our damages are online, they will go through and methodically reassess your property and send you supplementary tax bills and notifications about how much less you owe potentially for next year.
Okay, so next we have Jane. Jane, you should see a prompt come up on your screen.
Yes, thank you. I have one more question, and of course it relates to trees. I'm the lady with all the trees. When it comes to debris removal by the public entity that's going to be doing it, it seems to me what I have heard is that from you guys is that the only trees that would be removed are ones that are probably very proximate to the ash footprint and are somehow precariously perched in such a way that they need to be removed for safety's sake. What about the trees that could be burned or precariously perched along the driveway or road? My road is probably at least a mile long. Does that fall outside the bounds of debris removal?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, I would say in general, it does. I mean, of course, if that tree is leaning across the driveway and they can't safely pass through the driveway, then they might remove that tree in that process.
Okay, got it.
But I would imagine that you will want access to your property, and you may want to hire someone to at least cut up the tree to allow you passage up your driveway.
Okay, next we have Kelly Fleck. Kelly, you should see a prompt.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thanks, Kelly.
Hi. So my mom, I'm actually calling in regards to my mom. Linda Aldridge, she lost her ranch on Highway 12, the Pony Express. And I am wondering, or I want to know, she has 6 acres, and on the back side of her property, it did not burn. Does she need to wait for all the debris to be removed where the house was, and obviously her horse trailer and her truck, and maybe like there's a couple structures that need to, be removed before she's allowed to put a trailer on her property on the back side where they wouldn't be at?
I think she will need to have an inspection of her well and septic system before she's allowed to put a trailer on the property. But this is a question for Permit Sonoma. Thank you for taking care of your mother, and please give her my best, another one of my neighbors. And it's really sad, but I'm glad she found a place for her horses.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, so that's who we need to get in touch with.
Exactly.
Yeah, and Kelly, if you email me, I can put you in touch with them. You don't have to wait for us to do a meeting about that. That's a pretty specific situation, so I can put you in touch with someone over there.
Okay, and your email, where would I find your, is it on this site?
Why don't you read it off, Ariel?
I will do it. Okay, I will share my screen again. I'm doing a lot of things at once here. Bear with me.
And she has an exotic name, so take note. And where is it? Oh, there. It's tiny printing.
Thank you. I just did a screenshot.
Okay, good. There you go.
Okay, thank you very much.
And again, my best to her.
Thank you.
Holding the space bar and sharing the screen is like too many buttons. Okay, next we have James Knight. James, you should see a prompt.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can.
Thank you. I have another tree question, kind of from the other side. What if homeowners, property owners want a tree to be preserved, if possible, and will they be hit with unexpected tree losses when phase 1 happens or phase 2, where they won't be notified that a tree will be cut down because it was deemed by someone and we don't know their level of professionalism or not? I assume it would be. Some people may be able to empathize with this. There's nothing standing on the property except some old trees. They still have some leaves. They may stand. I interviewed people in 2017 who said, people from parks said, well, look, some of these trees might come back in a year, some might come back in 2 years. So we'll wait and see. But if they're in the proximity of the structure damage, will somebody come in and just cut them down willy-nilly? We had a situation with this with PG&E. We appreciate the great work they're doing, but they cut down some of my grandmother's, redwood trees to do about an hour of work. They took 60 years to grow. So if you see the gist of my question,
well, James, you're talking to a couple of tree lovers, and fortunately not all of the trees burned on my property, and I tried to save every single one of them.
Yes.
But what I did do was take caution tape or other kind of tape, stake it around the tree so that when debris cleanup happens, if they can navigate around the tree and not run over the root zone, which is bad for a tree, or accidentally damage some of the limbs. So they may have to selectively limit, but I suspect they don't want to do any more work than they absolutely have to do. So just try to protect the tree with some ropes and some stakes, and maybe you'll be successful. And please have an arborist come out and evaluate the health of your tree. They can dig into the cambium and determine whether or not that tree is in danger of failing in the next couple of years. But keep watering that tree. It may be a survivor.
And I also would add that we haven't seen the final or the right of entry form, but there is a place on that form that you will sign where you can make notations about particularities to your parcel, like a tree that you want to try to save.
And that's for phase 2, not for phase 1. And so during phase 1, there won't be any random tree cutting that we did not expect.
Correct. Phase 1 is literally people are going to walk onto your property and they're going to remove large visual hazardous materials or items.
Like paint cans or propane canisters,
Yes.
Maybe aerosol sprays.
They don't use the large heavy equipment.
And James, if I could just add that, to emphasize that if there's leaves on the tree and you've got the root structure there and there's branches structure there, That's doing a couple of things. One, it's really important for you to have that tree survive. That's great if that can happen. It's also really good for the erosion and for the soil, especially that first winter, to have that tree in place. It does such good, and that's true for anybody's property. The more that we can leave in the ground, and the more leaves and branches that we can have, above the ground, the better it's going to be for everyone and for the creeks.
All right, we are at 7, but we only have 4 more questions. So Supervisor Gorin, is it okay to proceed?
It is. Well, and remember, this is not your only opportunity to ask these questions. We'll probably have some of the same folks on our next call.
Okay, so next is Harriet Buckwalter. Harriet, you should see a prompt.
Hi, Harriet. I'm so glad you're on the call.
Hello. I want to say thank you so much. You guys have really done a wonderful job, and I know that there are many people who appreciate this information. Ariel is awesome. You need to give her a raise, but don't promote her too much because we want to keep her in your office.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. I had a question actually about the county right-of-way along St. Helena Road, and what measures might be put in place there in order to prevent erosion eventually getting into the creek, because the road pretty much runs next to the creek. And there are some places where there are cliffs right on one side that look to me, as I drove by these last couple of days, they look like, there's a lot that's going to come down with those first rains. So yeah, what can the county do to help us there? Because I think that the landowners are going to just be way too occupied with their own home sites.
Yes.
To deal with that. Thank you.
So if I could just field that question very quickly, TPW is our Transportation and Public Works Department. And I've worked with Johannes, who's the director, and he's established a fund through the Board of Supervisors to do some winterization along the right-of-way. And he actually toured early on the damage to go look at all the different roadways. And so he was able to see St. Helena Road. He texted me right when he was out there, once he got back into range, and could text that it really needed some work. So the kinds of things that he does is typically he'll put in hydromulch, and oftentimes that's a good place to start. He'll potentially put in wattles or sandbags. It's all very dependent upon the particulars of the exact location. They'll do guardrail repairs. They'll look at all of the different components. They actually review the culverts for damage. They also spend some time cleaning out the drainage ways and making sure that the water can flow properly so it doesn't overtop the road and then have a washout. So there's a lot of work that they do to get the road ready. And so he has some funding in place. And his crews will be out there.
And Harriet is one of the angels of the Friends of Mark West Watershed. So absolutely, she's going to be part of the solution. Thank you, Harriet. And I understand that your home survived through magical efforts, and I'm so glad that it did.
Yes, we are super blessed, and that gives us more energy to put towards helping the rest of our community. So that's what we're doing. Thank you.
Thanks, Harriet.
All right, next we have Kevin Powers. Kevin, you should see a prompt.
Can you unmute yourself, Kevin? I see.
Muted. They say again.
Better.
There we go.
Better.
Okay. Yeah.
Hear you.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks, Susan, and everyone for this meeting. It's really helpful. My wife and I live at the top of Tarwater Road off of St. Helena Road.
Yeah.
There's 13 families on that road, and there's no homeowners association. So I'm wondering if there's any funds available to improve the road, to get construction equipment up there and to get emergency vehicles up there. And the bridge is also damaged. I'm not sure, how much weight that bridge can take. So we're really kind of in a mess there. And is there any precedent or any history of FEMA, Cal, OSHA, or OES and insurance company working together, with individual homeowners to tap into their insurance so we can all get a fund so we can all get home? So that's my question.
It sounds like such a logical question. It should be so easy to do. And I see a great big smile from Lois. So Lois, I'll let you start that discussion.
Well, let's just say that I've never seen it before. It doesn't mean that it couldn't happen, but.
Oh, well. Well, that was my hope. I didn't know, how much hope there was in that question, or in that plan. So we'll just have to slug it out, I guess, with insurance companies.
I talked with a couple of your neighbors on Tarwater Road, and I had to get the map out, and I said, where in the heck is Tarwater Road? So now that you're open, I will be visiting your neighborhood, and invite me up and let's have a conversation. I'm going to say, I don't know whether the bridge is a private bridge or a county maintained bridge. So that's the first question that we need to help you answer. Obviously, if it's a county maintained bridge, then there's more of a priority. But again, we have precedent of other fire survivors replacing private bridges. So let's work together and figure out the specifics, and I'll come and examine your road.
Wonderful. I'd love that. Thank you very much, Susan, and everyone else. Have a nice evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Stephanie Gleason. Stephanie, you should see a prompt on your screen.
Yes, hi.
Yes, hi.
Yes, well, that was
Stephanie, if you can turn down whatever is causing the feedback, if you know, and I'm gonna unmute you again. But if that happens again, I'm gonna mute you again.
Well, it's not unmuting.
Yeah, I've never seen this happen. It's not working.
Stephanie, can you unmute yourself? Can you try?
I think that happens if she's logged into, sometimes you use your phone and your computer. And it's when you've got the meeting going on two devices.
Oh, I see you unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry. I had to use a Bluetooth. Our question is about a family friend who has a large piece of property off St. Helena Road that completely burned and had a cabin and a vehicle completely uninsured. Is there help from FEMA for the cleanup?
Yes, and I'll let Lois talk with you about that.
So that friend is the perfect candidate for the public program. They will come in and they will perform the debris removal. And for those properties that are uninsured, there would be no payment, because for every property owner, the only payment is insurance proceeds. So if you don't have insurance, there is no charge to the property owner.
Oh, that's good news. Thank you so much.
Sure.
And your tax dollars at work, it's coming home to Sonoma County. There are a number of folks who the only insurance that they could qualify for or purchase was the California Fair Plan. And the California Fair Plan, I understand, does not pay for debris cleanup either. So again, they would fall under the public option, and FEMA and Cal OES and the county would then pay for that cleanup.
Right.
So is it my understanding that all the burned trees, which is like 1 million, are are really up to the property owner to deal with, and there's really no help with that?
Sad but true. And I know a number of the properties. There was a previous caller in the same situation, and maybe you could work together or contact other property owners to see if, again, leave the trees over the winter. Many of them may recover. But sadly, I think the tree cleanup, there may be some options for you working together with other property owners or your friend working together, but they may recover on their own.
And Stephanie,
Oh, I hope so.
Stephanie, I would add that I have put the question up to the California Office of Emergency Services if tree removal can be considered debris removal. There has been examples of that, so I'm finding that out from them.
Oh, thank you so much. I just have one other small question. It's like the debris that needs to be removed from the cabin and a truck and things like that is on the top of a ridge, not so easy to access without four-wheel drive. Is that going to be a problem?
My understanding is that they will get that debris. I was on a call with other counties, and apparently Santa Cruz County has a whole lot of properties that they're requiring four-wheel drive vehicles to get to, and Cal OES is getting there and getting that debris.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for this meeting.
Sure.
You're welcome. And those bulldozers with the tracks can just about get up anything. But I did visit with a number of properties that were like 20 feet up on a stone ledge. And I thought to myself, whoa, they have their work cut out for them.
Oh yeah, yeah. My son watched them in action. We live off of Gates Road, and it was like amazing. A train of bulldozers cutting a huge road.
But
Just
they
across
protect
everyone's property to save Gates Road, which they did.
and they protected all of those properties because I drove through Gates Road
All
and I
of
said,
them.
whoa, that didn't
I
burn.
know.
That's so amazing.
It's a
Okay.
miracle.
Next question.
All right, and this is our last question, and it's Debbie Epstein. So Debbie is going to close us out.
Hi, I just have one quick question based on what we heard, that the public debris removal won't handle other structures. So who handles the toxic debris removal from other structures?
That all of the structures will be included in the phase 1 hazardous sweep, regardless of size. It's the phase 2 that has a size requirement for buildings that will be, that debris will be removed.
Great, easy answer. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Debbie. My best to you.
Thank you.
I really want to thank everybody for participating on the phone call, especially our 3 panelists, Lois Hopkins, Christine Sasco, John Kessel, and of course, our amazing Ariel. Our neighborhood captains fell in love with Ariel because of her communication skills and her care and empathy. So Ariel, thank you for organizing tonight's phone call. And
Supervisor Gorin,
yes.
if I could just say one thing, I know that there's a couple of Santa Rosa employees on the call, and for those properties that are in Santa Rosa, the City of Santa Rosa has a recovery webpage as well, and I know that there are people there, just like at the county, that are more than happy to answer any questions or help folks.
Thank you, Lois. I appreciate that addition. And again, my heart goes out to you. Be kind to your family, especially children who's gone through such trauma of losing their few possessions. Stabilize your family. It's Halloween time. Celebrate some kind of tradition for your family and your children. Maybe not social gatherings this year, but it's important to really care for your family unit. This is so, so stressful. And again, we will be with you. We will help you through the process. And please have a good night. And I especially want to thank you. This is the presidential debate tonight, and yet you chose to be with us. Well, maybe it was a good choice. I don't know. So thank you. Be well, be kind, and we will be in touch and lead you through this journey. Thank you all.